Who next? Go for it.
So I notice sometimes when you debate really heavy right-wing people, kind of like Fuentes even at times too, a lot of their arguments can be based in some sort of like Christian nationalist dogmatic linking. And I also noticed you've been reading C.S. Lewis a lot too, and so I was wondering if there was a correlation there, if like C.S. Lewis was helping you kind of understand like where they're coming from more and how to argue against it, or if like they're even wrong too. Because even when you would argue against Sneako too, it's like he would say he wanted a godly woman, but
yeah, okay. So I think you have to separate, like, if you're talking like America First Christian nationalism, that's completely different than whatever the Sneako Red Pill guys are talking about when they invoke, like, when those guys are talking Christianity, it's whatever excuse they can have to like hate women. It's unironically. I think that when Christian nationalist groups invoke it, I think that there's more of kind of like a center focus on like one of the guys that I debated today said this really well. I think if you are a strong Christian person, and maybe even a Christian nationalist person, you view the country fundamentally as being built from the bottom up, right? Like a strong country starts with a strong family, right? And a strong family starts with a strong mother and a strong father, and they're embodying some form of Christian values that allow them to survive and thrive as a strong Christian family. And then from those building blocks, you start to build out a society. I don't agree with the Christian worldview, but I think that there are like Christian critiques that can be made of a society that is too secularized that are probably valid to listen to, that there's probably a reason why families have existed in the ways that they have for so long. And there have been like tweaks, over time. Like, we haven't always been as much a nuclear family versus kind of like more of a collection of family members that raise people. We haven't always been like Christianity. There have been other religions, but like there have been like trends and currents that have existed throughout human history. Usually when I look at like, this is kind of like my secular way of viewing like kind of the Christian nationalist movement. When I think of Christian nationalists, I usually think of people that see a secular life a secular life lived right now that seems to be lacking in structure and lacking in purpose. That you have a bunch of people that are basically like ping pong balls bouncing around from dopamine machine to dopamine machine. You've got porn, you've got internet gaming, and then like LGBT issues and socialism, and you have this kind of directionless life that when you look at the stats, you see like, okay, well, depression is increasing, loneliness is increasing, single men are decreasing, unhappiness, and then they look at all of this and say, okay, well, these people have no purpose, they have no like guiding rigid structure for life, and then they kind of like look back to days of old and they go, okay, well, what did like old functional families used to look like? It was a mom, it was a dad, it was a couple children, it was people doing chores, it was people going to church, and I think that's what when I view Christian nationalism, I just look at like a group of people that are looking for a way to impose some kind of structure back on life that makes things make sense again, so that everything isn't like so like blown out and bizarro, which is in some ways is kind of where we're at right now in society. I think that liberals need to do a better job at giving a better framework for life, because if we've learned anything about ourselves as humans, it's humans left to their own devices in front of infinite dopamine machines will keep pulling the lever until their brains rot and fall out of their ears. That's just not something that we can handle responsibly, whether it's sugar in our diets, whether it's infinite online gaming, whether it's infinite access to, masturbating 10 times a day to porn, whether it's whatever. Like, we need... The word that I've been using is friction. There needs to be more friction in life accessing the things that make us happy, because I think there's probably a lot of happiness that comes from the friction itself. I made this argument, this is very not related, but I made this argument with like the Robinhood trading stuff, that like maybe being able to buy and sell stocks with absolutely no fee is not good, because people treat it like gambling, they get addicted to it, and having a little fee there makes you stop and think like, okay, maybe I need to think about this a little bit more. Same thing with playing games, same thing with like watching porn, same thing with doing like anything. Like, there should probably be a little bit more friction in life to give you like a little bit more of a struggle to get things, rather than just activating the dopamine receptors by scrolling TikTok and Reddit over and over and over again. Yeah.